This is super exciting. We are currently number 4 in the all-wheel drive category.
That's sick.
So that is really sick. So we had 192.1. The next guy is an Audi R8 with 194.5. Now, it's that second session where now we have to do it again between 1 to 3. It's currently 2. So we're going to try and get the wheel speeds dialed in, that tune a little bit better, putting more boost down, and hopefully if we can get over 194, then that means that we'd be at 3rd place.
Can I help you?
Hey, you remember that sentence that you said on Hoonigan's episode about you spoke for the team?
Oh no.
Uh-huh. Flip it around. Look at where it was touching. It was literally sitting on the rim. Especially I want to blame Isaiah. Something's going on with the wheel speed sensors because it's shorting the voltage, causing the wheel speed to go to shit. The rear one's trashed. This one is actually like really bad. Sadly, it was just the way they were zip tied on, and they're wedging against the center drivetrain, riding right on the CV joint.
I have this in the fiberglass, and this is just too much downforce.
We actually turned off one of the rear wheel speed sensors. If we were turning, we would now have a problem because it's averaging both as one. Since the front two have been visually inspected and moved and everything, and there's no problem right now, I think I can run traction control so I can turn up the boost and then tune the car. So we'll see how that treats us, but we're gonna go ahead and make that 3rd pass and hopefully beat 194. Going into 5th, going into 6th, I need to like give them more time under that power load. I cut ignition completely, but it went into neutral, which was terrifying for me. Like I thought it blew the trans. The good news was it was a flat foot run. Everything was stable. I felt very comfortable and safe in the car.
All things considering, lifting off, you still did 180.
Yeah, we only had a couple minutes to tune the car a little bit more, but we're gonna go ahead and hopefully get it to shift into 5th and 6th gear. I know we can hit 200. If we don't hit 200 at this point, we can turn 6th gear way up. I have traction for days now, but things got out of control real quick, so we're just being careful. Our last run, and this is sad. Watch this. Short shifted, short shifted, short shifted, short shifted. Didn't realize I was in 5th by this point. Went into 6th, and then I thought I was in 5th. So I let off. Look at the flags are way out there. Whoa! Yeah.
You thought you were in a Corvette 7th gear?
I don't know what I was doing. That one would have been a mid 190 run, but it doesn't matter because I got something really good coming up next.
Hasn't come back?
We are back for day 2, and I get a night to look at the laptop and go over everything. I learned a lot about the car and a lot about these more insane, everything's happening in a moment situations. So we are going to 40 PSI today, and my goal is a little different than it was yesterday. Yesterday was just trying to get the turbo to do what I wanted consistently and accurately so we don't spin out at 200 miles an hour. Our focus is on getting through the first 4 gears very quickly, which is a strength of ours. But then 5th gear is something I've kind of taken okay serious, and the 6th gear I thought was like the most serious one. Well, both 5th and 6th I'm in for more than 3 seconds, and they lug. We're gonna take the wing off, because it's holding us back on the very top end, and we've got enough downforce for everything else. 5th gear, my goal is to get through that as quick as possible, so then 6th gear I just set it and ride. I don't want to try and screw around with the first half, so then I have to rely on the second half, because we're seeing intake temps go up to 175 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a surprise. But I mean, when you're doing a half mile, it's just kind of the name of the game. So car doesn't overheat. We've only gotten up to 181 degrees Fahrenheit on the coolant because I just turn all the coolers on. The car's hot, but it's not localized hot. So I feel like with this overcast weather, it's not super cold, and it's gonna get really hot today, about 90 degrees. Our goal is within the next 2 hours to try and hit 200 miles an hour. Once I hit 200 miles an hour, I'm done. I'm not gonna try it again. I'll tell you right now, not a single rotary is ever gonna hit 192. I'll put $1,000 right now. I'm not a betting person. I'm just telling you, that is not an easy number. You will blow your motor if it's like a 2-rotor. That extra half mile over a quarter mile is torture on any engine. We're seeing cars blowing up. We're seeing cars catching on fire. We're seeing tons of people blowing their motors. But in our case, it's not the rotary engine. It's the transmission that's having the problem. So, time to suit up.
I saw this as we were leaving yesterday, and I mentioned it to Rob, but look, that kind of fell down and was being pulled down and grinded down, which is kind of incredible because this is actually a pretty thick piece of carbon. But so right now we got back and I'll deal with it today. I look and I think maybe the bolt either came out or grinded down because it's in the front. And I look underneath there and the bolt is still there. A 120-inch thick fucking piece of carbon, and it pulled the flange bolt through it. That's how much downforce is going through this shit at that speed.
That one of them there wankles? Let me get in there and take
Oh, sir, that's...
Damn.
It's
There we go. It's not that cold out, but it's still, that was a completely cold start. Only took 2 turns to get there. I was doing a safety check, and I was like, you know what, the fuel system hasn't been looked at all. So this is the sort of stuff when you do multiple runs like this, that's why I stopped, because I was gonna let the car warm up, but I was gonna do every sort of safety check I could, because you can't assume, you cannot assume. This is the sort of shit that gets you killed. I wanted to point out what I just caught is very serious. We're going through every single fuel line and just making sure each AN line is tight. Mind you, we just traveled 20 hours to get here, cars on the back of a trailer, shaking to death. It's like a rumble box. And then on top of that, these runs are just going, back to back. That's why today, what is very important is we don't go back to back because I'm so excited that, oh man, I'm this close, or if I hit 199 or something like that. This is that moment that makes the difference between me being a good viral video and a very bad viral video. Woo. One thing I hope you guys get to see about this is that when you see Lambos doing 250 or whatever in the half mile, you're thinking, oh, okay, seeing a Mustang do 180 is or whatever. It is so taxing on the car. It almost feels like you're lugging the car. It feels like you're like, heat goes through the roof. You're already hot from the first 5 gears of the first half. The first quarter mile of the car is already heat soaking. And so then you have to do this last part, and you have to be fast at that to get a respectable number. Almost like a short-term endurance run. It's really impressive. I'm sure the mile guys are even crazier. We have no real full ducting on the car. Aerodynamics actually comes into play, like over 150 miles an hour. You're thinking, duh, Rob, that does. But no, I mean, like, the front splitter's got several hundred pounds on it. So it's really impressive that we have this brick flying through the air right now, doing what it's doing. Fuel system, oil system, everything's looking great. So we're gonna go ahead and see what the car will do. so beautiful. That's how it's got to go, right?
But look at that. But then the boost stayed down. Uh-oh. No.
What better than to get the real shot right as we're being towed back in. What a bummer. This is the very first time we've ever actually hurt the 4-rotor itself. I guarantee I was well into 40-some PSI. That was going to be well over a 200-mile-an-hour run. We can look at the data to prove that. Everybody here knew it was going to be. We never side clearanced the rotors, and so I'm sure they made contact with one of the side plates and froze the motor up, something along those lines is my current guess. And it fires back up, but it sounds like absolute shit, so you're just chewing up bearings at that point. The data is great. It proves that everything I was doing last night got it on point, but we're just gonna learn what it takes to take it to the next level. I shouldn't have gone that hard, honestly. It was far beyond the 192, like way beyond it. I'm not upset. I'll be upset, like, when I'm at the shop and we have to tear it apart, but we're gonna pull the motor anyway because we've just been beating the shit out of it. We're pushing this thing harder than anybody's ever done. It's the cost of pushing a rotary this hard. And I mean, we've done numerous this versus that runs. We've done almost 200 miles an hour passes.
Yeah, we put a lot of hurting on
this car's taught us a lot. Build back better, bigger, stronger, longer. I fucked up. I fucked up big time. It hit 50 pounds of boost. I made a mistake on 5th to 6th. I told it that, hey, as soon as you start feeling me strain, close the wastegate twice as hard. Well, the problem was that it had a struggle getting into 6, so I pulled it and then pulled it again, and so it closed the wastegate completely. That was my own tuning mistake. I didn't specify any more about that if there was an issue, and so it closed the wastegate to about 30% of total open. It was happy at 48%, and so it closed it, and that shot it up to 50 pounds of boost. Boost cut occurred, but it went lean. It actually made it into 6. And then I got into boost, 40 PSI right there, but the engine was already hurt. Erroneously said that we went to 50 pounds of boost. We went to 60 pounds of boost.
No.
Yeah. I mean, even here we were at 46, which should have been boost cutting. You can see my air-to-fuel ratio was staying under its target until the very last second because it wasn't designed to go to 60 pounds of boost.
You pushed this thing hard today.
It sucks that we don't have a record of what happened here because how insanely epic that is. This is like a 210-mile-an-hour run. If you're somebody that knows how the Lamborghinis run and whatnot, you know that this sort of horsepower is well over 200 miles an hour. So I wish it wasn't hearsay. I wish I wasn't saying this to you, saying, oh yeah, it could be. I would have. It was far beyond the previous runs. We would have hit it if I didn't make a very small mistake. I'm not being positive to try and make it a light situation. We've been beating the shit out of this motor for years, and we've taken it down just to refresh and everything, so we know we have all the specs and everything. It's gonna be a pain in the ass to rebuild, but we're gonna rebuild it very quickly. We blew it at the top of 5th, and what that means is that we have data to go to 2,000 horsepower. I before never once said 2,000 wheel horsepower. I always said 2,000 engine horsepower, but I can tell you right now, this engine and this turbo are capable of something far beyond that. So we got a lot of data, and we can rebuild it, learn from our mistakes, and make this thing an absolute rocket. If you take away anything, take away the fact that we hit 60 pounds of boost when the car was only tuned for 44, and we rolled the dice on accident. And so I learned, and we're just gonna make it even faster next time. So I have a fellow Z06 owner who has asked me to sign the dash, and so I'm gonna get him to rotary swap it. It's so weird because it feels just like our car. Like I just sat in here like, oh yeah. Yeah, there you go. So I was showing the guys because I'm so excited. This is the wheel speeds on that last run.
Joel was not interested in anything.
No,
he was. So he was showing me.
Yeah, dick in hands back there.
I want food.
You will listen to this talk. Yeah. And so you can see the the rear wheels slipping as I'm boosting through the gears. So even at 150 miles an hour, the car was starting to get the tires to break loose, which is beautiful. But I was doing that, and then that's where we had the problems. But Isaiah was asking about the EGTs, and I was like, yeah, look at. They're so hot that they max the EGT sensor. 1050 Celsius is the maximum the EGT can read, and it hits that multiple times. And my guy's a natural born tuner. He goes, what's that red line? And I'm like, I don't know. The red line is rotor 2. We can see, actually, now that you've got us on one step further with that, because we fire up the motor right here in the parking lot. And rotor...
Oh, yeah, look at...
Oh, look at that. Rotor 2 is still running.
Uh-huh.
And then rotor 3 is really hot.
We got a 2-rotor right now.
Yeah, we got a 2-rotor. That's our smoking gun. What does it take to make a Dorito make a lot of power for a long time? Well, there aren't very many people that know the answer to that, and oddly enough, we're one of the first to push these cars this hard. There are a handful of guys that do drag strip racing. The faster they are, the less time that the engine is under load. How to make 60 PSI on a rotary engine and make it consistently. There's nobody in the world that has done that and survived this long, especially on a 4-rotor. So we're gonna tear apart the 4-rotor and see just what needs to change to make that motor make 2,000 horsepower and live over and over. Take a 2JZ, an RB26, even your infamous LS swap, none of those motors will last at that horsepower level, but I do believe that the rotary engine is capable of doing something better than all of them. So we're gonna go ahead and start breaking these things a little bit more at very high power levels. I know that I hurt this motor, but we have done almost 100 pulls back to back to back, and ask anybody, Cletus, any of those guys, that is just going to wear the motor down. But we have such amazing data that we are able to do some more machine work. We found a weakness that we will now take one step further and then get this motor back together, and we're going to the dyno, because I guarantee we were well over 1,700 horsepower when I saw an issue. So, it's time to dig in.
Rob has on Patreon live stream right now, and he was like, yeah, so after I'm done with that, I'll come help you with this. And I was like, you're gonna come help me? Nah, so if he does...
For the record, Your Honor, there's no damage.
Yeah.
We didn't break an apex seal. The engine did not break like a traditional motor. So that's not bad tuning. It didn't blow because of me. I just pulled rotor 2's spark plug, and there's nothing on it, which is good in the sense of like metal or anything like that, but it's completely covered in oil. I think that we just scraped straight through the tungsten. That is my #1 guess right now.
I feel like a lot of you guys know this pain, and I'm kind of upset that I let this happen to me. This hasn't happened to me in a long time. It had to be the big one, too.
We dove into rotor 2. I started going side to side, and see right there?
Mm-hmm.
That's the wear. You can watch it come up right there. It's gone.
Oh, wow.
Compared to the other side, I go and look at the side that I think is safe, and
shit.
It's better, but because this is the side the bearing's on, that's the side it's not. Okay, I'm 200 pounds of pure muscle.
Ooh.
So I get this to my boy Blister.
Can I see you in the office? My dad used to call me Blister, and it's because I don't show up until after the work's done. I told you that in confidence, in private. So you're triggering me. We've weighed this before, but this is kind of like a wet block. There's a little bit extra oil in it, but that's not going to make much of a difference. I want to know how much this weighs wet to say, okay, that's the sort of inertia and momentum and center of gravity to the vehicle. 363, pound or two with, with this assembly.
So we'll say 360.
360. Yeah, so we'll say 360. That's pretty damn good for what you see here to make all that power. I can't wait anymore. I need to know if the motor spins freely now with the oil kind of out of it, or the manifold, or whatever the case may be. I want to see. I was just hoping they would do that. Sorry.
Jeez,
I don't feel so good, guys.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it.
Yep.
I'm not gonna do it.
Let it go. Let it go. That's what I was. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that.
That came from over here.
Okay.
There's so much oil in that. Jesus.
Those are looking good.
No oil?
No oil, just
Oh my gosh.
a little bit of heat. The blue shit I put on there, the extra everything, it's all fine. It didn't leak at all from here. I love this flywheel. That's a heaven send. We did torque this motor properly, so we shouldn't have such a pain in the ass removing the lobes. All the shit should have come off at once. I've never done that before. Just taking the counterweight off, how dry it was on this side, it just shows that oil couldn't even think about making its way through the splines and everything. That was really the move there. It feels like there's a little nick on the rear main seal, and I think that's what's going to the back of this and then being shot all across the whole back. Because that's the only thing that's under pressure. We struggled a little bit with these bolts, and you can actually see these bolts are warped. Right in the center, the engine's bowing under tons of power. Those are the secondary ones. That one is below and above the spark plug dowel. Proof that 1/2-inch bolts and the 16mm dowels are the move for a motor like this. Don't upset it at all. So they stay on there.
Wait, this one's dented. Was this one dented before?
Oh shit, it wasn't.
Well, the bearings look really good.
Yeah, the bearings look amazing. Holy shit, look at the green. The green is that tungsten disulfide that I put on there. I forgot all about the fact that I did it to this motor, and it's still on there. See how easy these are coming out? No real effort involved in this. This is the exhaust and intake side. What we saw earlier with the 2 bolts here being warped, this one's stuck. The whole engine is bowing. So we've got all this material here to work with. We've got these holes here. We've got area here that we can machine on the mill consistently. Just like how we have all the bracing on the cold and exhaust side, we're gonna make something that braces these housings in place, because this is the limit of a 4-rotor. There's reasons why you don't see 4-rotor drag cars. There's reasons why you don't see 4-rotor anything. It's just not the proper engine, and yet we're gonna make it the proper engine. Tightened it twice now. It's just...
Here, hold up one second.
Moved a little.
Wait.
No, these moved. The threads didn't. Or the... Watch. See?
Oh, whoa.
See? It's warped, and you can tell because look at the space right there and how tight it is over here. What we're gonna have to do is, we can't take the front cover off yet. We're gonna have to disassemble a couple of these plates. Because this one's wedged, I'm gonna try and reduce the length of wedge by removing this housing so that we can remove this one of 2 long dowel bolts. That way this distance isn't so close, because that's also bracing the entire motor. If I get this one off, then the whole motor can kind of jiggle a little bit more without falling apart completely. So I think these were supposed to be tapped at some point. Look at that.
Nice.
That's the one.
Jeez.
Yeah, that bitch is long.
That's good. So just pulling that one shows you how like wobbly.
Wind it up, yeah.
Yeah. I'm scared.
The Corvette is scared. Oh, whoa.
Wait. Okay, baby, come with me.
There you go.
It's the sections of these from each one. I guarantee you, like some sort of level. It's boop, boop, boop.
Nice. Oh my god.
Oh, we sheared the.
Oh my god.
Holy shit! Yeah, I have the other half of the key in here. The key sheared, but we never rely on the key. We use the taper, but you don't see that. Like this motor should have grenaded. That explains why the engine was misfiring.
That was what we were talking about.
The bearings should have been gone from that, because that means that this slid.
Everything's all off balance.
Everything's off balance. That's power. That is.
Oh my god.
We sheared the piece of metal clean in half.
That's exciting.
That is very exciting. This motor should have nuked itself. There we go.
Keyways in
Nope,
there.
nope, it's fine. So that is rotor one's housing. I'll be going through all of these individually. Are we ready for the next answer?
Ooh. Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
It just rotated.
That is hilarious.
Jeez.
Okay, first of all, we chewed straight through it.
Whoa.
Is that indented down? Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Damn sure the worst of the worst happened. Oh, that's where the oil is coming
from the
Holy
center
shit.
of the
from. I've
rotor.
never seen it that bad.
That is
It even
beautiful.
bowed right there. Oh.
That is beautiful.
I'm putting that up on a wall somewhere. That is.
Wow,
my God.
yeah.
Even
it
on here.
hit. Yeah.
Jesus.
Right there, you can see where it's hitting. No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the heat. We blew straight through the side of a rotor. Oil was spraying out of there, and that ended the run beautifully with tons of smoke. Not only did we damage the rotor, we also broke one of the E-shaft lobes right clean off of the E-shaft. This is unobtainium metal. This is something that you can't get replaced easily. We sheared this pin straight off, and this lobe was free spinning. But do you notice something about all of these surfaces where the bearings contact it? Not a single one is damaged. While we might not have been prepared to go this hard, the valvoline inside this motor was. And you should expect damage on these parts. This goes into here. And look at the bearing. This is the softest metal inside the entire motor. Do you see anything wrong with that? There is not a single bit of damage in there. And where the motor literally exploded, look at the bearing. There is no damage to the softest metal. That should have been chewed up immediately. But thanks to Valvoline's VR1 and the science that we put behind it, this motor is essentially perfectly fine other than the parts that we absolutely destroyed. Let's dive into what it takes to use this oil in this motor perfectly. This oil is impressive for what you get off the shelf at like Walmart or AutoZone or whatever the case may be. The point is you can go out and just buy it. This oil, as is, works beautifully in a lot of race applications, but the science behind using it even further allows you to push your motor to the absolute limits. So we all know the basics of engine oil. The concept, even just sitting here on the table, is easy. You're taking oil and lubricating it between two surfaces. So of course, if I had done that straight on the table, you wouldn't get this nice little floating effect. That same concept applies inside of here. You are preventing two pieces of metal from contacting each other in a circle. There are three things to take into account when you're talking about bearing science. Speed, so the speed that you're spinning this or pushing this, the pressure that's involved in that, as well as the temperature that you're doing it all at. In the case of an engine, the speed is basically the engine RPM. The temperature is actually the temperature of the oil in the engine, so your oil temp, and the pressure isn't your oil pressure. That is one of the biggest mistakes that people make, myself included, when you first talk about bearings. Engine oil pressure is not engine bearing pressure. Using this example here, when you slide this across, you're actually riding on a wave of oil. Bearing pressure is the measurement of the pressure between those two things. That is not what you're measuring when you have oil going in or out of the motor. That pressure wave is created by the speed that you're spinning these at, as well as the temperature and the viscosity of the oil, so the stickiness of the oil. All of those things create this wave that has a very specific height and how much pressure it can handle. That wave comes from the energy of me spinning it or pushing it or moving it. That is considered the loss of energy. It's required. It's a natural part of the bearing to take some of that energy to create the bearing's pressure. Since energy is neither created or destroyed, what does that energy turn into? Heat. Heat will shake the party up. Some of that heat will actually make the oil thinner and less sticky in viscosity as it gets hotter. But too much heat, no matter what oil you're using, even if it's as good as VR1, will still break down. The chains of oil that make it all lubricating will actually break down, and you can hurt the bearings. The material does not want to be that hot. So you're actually pushing oil into the motor with oil pressure to try and replace the oil that's in the bearing and eject the heat out of the situation before it gets too hot. The bearing is made out of multiple soft metals, tin mostly, as well as copper and whatnot. And you can tell when you blow your bearings, you'll see the significant amount of orange copper in your oil pan. The distance between that bearing and that lobe is your bearing clearance. It's the common name for it. That clearance distance has a massive effect on both the pressure created and the heat generated. And while there are extreme exceptions, the more pressure you create, the more heat is generated and more horsepower lost. So you're able to support higher horsepower levels, but you also lose more horsepower in the bearing. The other way is also true. If you loosen these up and you make more of a clearance, you have less pressure generated. Film layer, or that wave, isn't as wide across the entire lobe, but it also reduces the amount of heat or friction in the bearing. The pressure wave that I keep referring to is actually more accurately called the hydrodynamic film layer, and there's science all about that. In fact, you can get a PhD of engineering in tribology, the science of friction and bearings. Technically, it's the study of rubbing, which is hilarious. But you know how I learned about tribology? Was because of the engineers and scientists at Valvoline. That there are people way smarter than me working on this and that can describe this more accurately, but this is kind of a quick taste of the whole world of what goes on between two pieces of metal. Those almost 200-degree intake temps, that hard of endurance, the rotor couldn't cool enough, the intake charge was super hot, everything was super hot. We didn't detonate the motor in the traditional sense of us sticking around and detonating it. It was just sheer amount of intensity. This is why nobody else has ever gotten close, honestly, with the half-mile numbers. Even quarter-mile, everybody talks about quarter-mile being fast. You're doing it for 6 seconds, 7 seconds. And yes, it is very intense. But when you're doing it for 20 seconds, that's a lot more intense. That is genuinely more intense because you have heat that you can't displace. I was saying, please don't look stupid for the guys. Oh, it's broken too.
Jeez.
This is the first time I think a YouTuber has ever attempted something as intense as this. We are building our own engines.